What's happening? How's it going? Sorry, I'm like 2 minutes late. That's not good when I keep telling everyone what time we're starting and then I'm 2 minutes late. But um, thanks for clicking and being online. I'm testing out something right now. Yes, and it works. Cool. So, welcome to the Good Work Live. I am Dave. I am your uh, friend and screen buddy for the next few minutes as I talk about some things that I think may be valuable to us and what we're doing in this project. You might be new to this page on Facebook. If you are, I'd encourage you to go to our website, thegoodwork.org, learn more about what we're doing. And if you have any questions, you can reach out and contact me and find out more. Anyways, on Wednesday nights around 6:45, I get along with myself occasionally. But other than that, I also get online at 6:45, and I share with you this and what we're doing and some things I think that are cool that maybe will be helpful to you. So thanks for jumping on. I apologize if it sounds like I have swallowed a handful of the past 2 nights. I was given a very generous gift to attend 2 professional wrestling programs on back-to-back nights in downtown Phoenix. The WWE was in, and myself and Good Work community folks, Rob and Chris and my wife Katie, and I went to SmackDown. And as you can tell, I think it's real. So my voice is shot. And then today, Good Work community buddy Steve invited me to the first Diamondback spring training game of the year. So I went to that, and I attempted to yell at the umpires. It didn't go well. So hopefully this lasts an extra 10 or 15 minutes, and I can get through this. So anyways, that's what's going on there. How are you? How are things going for you? What's your story this week? No, just playing. Unless you want to, in which case say something in the comments, because I'd actually genuinely like to know what's going on with you this week. We have 1 week left in our kindness campaign to help out Poverty's Pets. That's a nonprofit organization that takes care of stray dogs or dogs that need homes, especially in underserved parts of Phoenix. If you'd like to give to them, you can give directly, or you can give through us through our website, again, thegoodwork.org/support. Find out more information. We've had 2 events that they've held that we've invited y'all to check out what they're doing, but there's more information online. Or again, you can reach out to me if you'd like to know more about them. So I hope you'll consider doing that. We have a financial gift going to them and matching funds if you were so inclined to be generous in that way this month. So we're doing that through the 28th, and then we will have another way that you can be kind going forward. A lot of you may have gotten an email from me inviting you to dinner over at my place. I'd love to cook for you. It's something new we're experimenting with in the Good Work, a way for you to engage in what I hope is something meaningful and fun. So check for that in your inbox, and if you didn't get something and you're interested in having a meal prepared for you by yours truly, I'd love to make you dinner and just hang out and talk and have a good time. So reach out to me. If you didn't get an email, I'd love to invite you to that. 2 things that I'm really excited about. Actually, it's 2 specific things besides everything else I've just talked about, which I'm obviously thrilled about, except the voice thing that hurts. But there's 2 books that I'm going to be reading in the next couple of weeks. And you obviously don't have to, but I know a couple other people are, and it might be fun if you are reading along with. So one of them is Rob Reinders, my partner on the project, and I have talked about picking up and reading. It is not a new book. It is an old book. I think it's 80 years in publication. Yeah, that's actually what it says on the cover. But sometimes it's kind of get back to your roots. You connect with people and your own authenticity and your own agenda and how you kind of vibe and how you interact with other human beings. And so he and I are going to dig into How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale. Again, old school book, but sometimes it's good to go back to some roots, and we thought we would read this and talk about it. Again, we don't have a small book group. We're not anything super organized, but if you're interested in reading while we read this, that's something I'm going to be getting into in the next couple weeks. And then my buddy Steve gave me this book, and I thought it would be pretty tremendous too. So if you're more in the spiritual journey realm and you want to read something that is more of a spiritual focused book on your own journey, going to be reading this by Henry Nouwen, The Return of the Prodigal Son. I think this would be a really powerful book if you were a person who has faced rejection or exclusion, or if you're a person who has relied on religion and found it to be a broken place to find meaning by itself, or you've dragons or whatever. I think people on journey, that's kind of a good place for them to be. It's if you take out the religious connotations of this, the story of the prodigal son, if you haven't heard of it, is a powerful story about personal redemption, and I think it's really cool. So I'm going to be reading those two books in a couple weeks. No rush, but if you have any interest in those, I would like for you to say hi to me and let me know, and it would be cool to talk about those together. Okay, so I'm doing that. I'm doing those. I'm excited about that. Doing dinners. I'm excited about that. We have a couple other little group hangouts that we'll be sharing with you. There's some other non-prof fundraiser events. It would just be cool to go and crash. So be on the lookout for those on this page. Invite people that you think might enjoy trying to do to this Facebook page. Share this video if it is valuable to you or to them maybe. And I think we can continue to grow like we have been, and really began to discover some cool ways to connect with each other and some meaningful ways to live together that creates value and compassion in neighborhoods, our schools, places, and I have a feeling that I'm speaking quietly. I can't tell, so I'm trying not to yell. I'm sorry. Okay. What I want to talk to you about tonight, I'm going to try to keep it real brief and real high level, not too detailed and gritty. If you have any kind of connection to the religious realm of Christianity, you will know that this is in the what the church calendar year, the season of Lent. Lent happens right after culturally what we know as Mardi Gras, but in the church year it's the 40 days going up to Easter, and this is historically a very solemn time of year for a large swath of Christianity. It's a time of deep self-sacrifice or self-discipline in order to connect to the divine in a very meaningful way. If you are unfamiliar with Christian calendar patterns, you may have still heard of it. You may have heard of the idea of fasting or doing without something. But it's one of the ways that every year big C, generic, large brand Christianity tries to express its beliefs and its faith, which is commendable. I'm not against it per se. I am against kind of the commercialization of Lent and the idea of doing things you ought to do because you just ought to do them anytime throughout the year. You're doing them during Lent and saying that that's the actual sacrifice. That's a whole different thing. But there's this whole cheapening of Lent thing that I just like. If you're going to do it, like, you should actually sacrifice. That's just my only thing. Like, don't say you're doing Lent and you're turning off social media. I know that's harsh and that's a critique, and maybe you've done that before. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying it's probably, like, we could probably all cut down on social media. All right, I'm not going to get into that. You can disagree with me, by the way, but I think it cheapens Lent when we cut out chocolates instead of actually sacrificing something like real food. But I know there's Dave. Gosh, he's such a radical. Anyways, not what I wanted to talk about tonight. So good thing I'm not going to go on a tangent. What I want to talk about tonight was that Christianity as a whole has always had this, like, church year calendar, and some tribes in evangelical Christianity it's just thrown it out the window and doesn't participate in it. But the majority of Christianity has this church year calendar, and it begins one or thereabouts the first Sunday in December, and it goes throughout the year. And there are these peaks and these valleys to the church year where there are these special holidays and special periods where certain things are practiced every year. Christmas, or Advent leading up to Christmas, then Christmas, and then there's Epiphany, and then there's the Holy Week services, and then there's Easter, and then there's a period of ordinary time, and there's before ordinary time. There's the other one. Wow, hey, it's a long day. I can't remember all of them, but there's holidays and there are peaks and valleys, and it's a system that allows a group of people who are, let's say, aligned on the same major points, focusing together. It's a way for them to act in sync with each other as they remember who they are and who they hope to be, and what their values are. So there's this church year calendar, and 6 or 7 years ago, while I was in seminary, grad school for religious dorks, I wrote this paper, and I'm not going to read it to you or anything. Trust me, you wouldn't like it. But this analysis that said, you know what, whether or not a person is Christian or Buddhist or atheist, religious or non-religious, spiritual or just very humanist, we all have our own calendars, our own rhythms. And even the least religious among us have these rhythms and these tones to our years. For one way or not, for better or worse, we all adhere to our own Adventese calendars, our own Lents, our own high holidays. We all have our own liturgical calendars. And I think that's significant. Here's why. I live in Phoenix. And Phoenix has its own rhythm and its own cadence. And culturally, there are things that we know go on in the city, and we up to them, and we prepare our energy. We understand there's going to be traffic flows and pattern flows, and there are things that we're going to take time off of work to go do, or we're going to get out of town to avoid the mess of or congestion. We're going to participate in this other thing. For example, today is the day of spring training. Spring is a huge socioeconomic piece to life in Phoenix. Thousands upon people come here every end of February and sometimes through the entire month of March and spend it rooting on their favorite team or their favorite prospects as these young men find their position on the year. Out of the city of Phoenix. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of part-time jobs. There's different traffic flow patterns that occur because the ballparks are all over the metro. And it's something that usually the whole city gets for in one way or another. Now, it's not every one of the million plus people that are here, but it's enough of the folks that it changes the dynamic in the city, and we all mentally are aware of this time that it happens. We have in Phoenix a large Latino population, and yet there are bits of the way that we celebrate that culture that there are other parts of the country that don't focus on it the way that our population does here. But we have a rhythm to that, to celebrate those things, how they're celebrated. If you dig down deeper, it goes into neighborhoods, and it goes into families, and it goes into individuals, how they celebrate, and those peaks and those valleys and those times where you know your emotional tank needs to be more filled because the period of time you're about to go through will require much more of you. I have friends who just about leave Phoenix to travel out, to go see friends out east to go see a particular horse race. And that's something to prepare for, and weeks in advance. They get excited, they save their money, they buy the clothing and the paraphernalia to really kind of live that season. Watching them is the same as watching my religious friends preparing for a holy period of time in their religious culture. It's exciting for them. It's fun to watch them. Some may not consider traveling out to Kentucky to watching the Oaks races and watching the Derby be a religious thing. But when you watch them prepare, you watch them set aside their energy and their time and their willingness to go do this thing, you realize this is a meaningful, transformative thing for them. They go and do it because they love it. They love the people that they're with. And that's really at the core of what the church has always tried to do. And while the nouns and the verbiage may change, there's still this idea that there are these moments in time, there are these peaks that we get more prepared for, that we spend more time on because of the people that we surround ourselves with, and the values that we surround ourselves with are those things that we want to spend that time, that energy, and that money on. So I ask you this tonight. What are your personal high holy holidays? And you may be a church attender, but I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about in your life. What are the things throughout the year that, if they don't happen every year, they happen fairly regularly, maybe every couple of years? Let's say no more than when the Olympics occur, every handful of years. What are those things that you know are those peaks on your calendar that you've set aside for the most meaningful experiences? 10-ish years ago, a group of my closest friends, who were still some of my closest friends, we took out time right after Christmas, and we would leave Phoenix, and we would go up to the mountains, and we would turn everything off and hide away from everyone for a week. And we called it Festivus. It was kind of a ripoff, but it's what we did. We would get away and spend time with each other and bond. And that's where we got to see some of our friends be parents in a very intimate setting as they were parents for the first time. That's where we got to see how much food Aaron could consume before he just about exploded. That's where we sat down and watched bad TV together. And no, it wasn't for anything that was highly philosophical. It was for the fact that we loved each other, and that love for each other created this bond and this desire to spend this intimate time with one another, laughing and sharing and eating and watching Aaron gorge himself. And to this day, I think that every one of us who used to do that on an annual basis could easily say that we miss it. That there's something there, that there's this period of time in this year that we know when things get hectic or when we get tired, we feel like there should be this peak where there isn't one anymore. And times change, and as it necessitates, you can't always do the things that you used to do. But it feels near like we're skipping Christmas, we're skipping Easter, or whatever your religious observance might be. Do you have those, or did you have them, and what is that like? Is it meaningful to you when you have these moments in your life, your own liturgical calendar, your own high holy holidays, when you miss something? And what does that do? My last kind of like little insert point for tonight is this. Do those have meaning for you that are only about yourself? And here's what I mean. And my friends who fly out to Kentucky and go watch the Oaks, or my friends who did Festivus, or you who may have a family reunion every year, or you may have a pilgrimage to your favorite baseball stadium, or whatever it may be. Do you find your personal high holy days to be days where you're alone, or days when you are with people? I would suggest that more often than not, if not almost every time, those high days, those days that you set aside that emotional energy, that maybe your own financial energy or whatever else it may be, those high holy days of yours personally are ones that you spend with the folks that you care about. And to me, there's something like deeply transcendent about that. Because whether it's a part of a big C church or a little C church or big F family or little F family or whatever you want to call it, there's something intrinsically within us that wants to celebrate the sacred things of our lives with the other people who find it to be sacred. One of the things that we've been digging around in our research aspect of the Good Work Project is why people tapped out on communities that call themselves churches. Because we are convinced that even today, people desire to spend their most transformative minutes, their most sacred hours with people they trust and love dearly. We actually believe people still want community on a very deep level. But they quit finding it in the brick and mortar Sunday morning experiences of churches. And we had to start asking ourselves why. And we have been doing the research now for a little over a year as to why that's happening. And soon we're going to start really sharing a lot more of that in, I hope, a more meaningful way than just anecdotal things that I would tell you on Facebook Live Wednesday nights at 6:45 here on this Facebook page. But I can say this, without a rhythm of celebration and a rhythm of genuine connection with each other, Christmas, you could attend a Christmas service with 6,000 people in an auditorium or a sanctuary or whatever you want to call it, and feel like you're completely alone. But you could serve Christmas dinner with 3 strangers and feel like something holy is going on. You could serve Christmas dinner at a shelter or a Red Cross or whatever your service project might be. There's something about interacting with others who find our values to be meaningful, mutually meaningful, that creates holiness. You know what I mean? And it's not about agreeing that A, B, and C is the only way to interact with the universe, or that if you don't do X, that you are not a part of what we're doing as the human race in a good way. I'm talking about just simple ideas like love and compassion and kindness, joy, friendship, laughter, tears, those kinds of things. Somewhere along the line, church as a concept traded out relationships for doctrine. And that's a whole nother subject that I don't have time for. But in the hierarchy of what church was about, when the church didn't have any power, when Christianity was new, it was not about instilling right doctrine into each other. It was about surviving together. Remembering Jesus was different when the church didn't have the leverage to sway legislation. Something happened when the church gained power that actually lost its ability to be intimate and transcendent and personally soul-filling. And so people created their own liturgical calendars. You and I have sought out our own ways to connect with the deepness of life. And I'm really curious to know what that's like for you. So maybe if you join one of our groups, hang out for dinner, we might talk about that some more. But if nothing else, I hope that you consider those places in your life and in your rhythm of life where you've set aside and you know, oh man, May 8th of every year, this is when we go do this, and I am gearing up for it this year, and we're going to have a great time, blah, 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 blah. Or September 23rd, that's the big September 23rd day that we all go smoke that cigar with all my college friends. We all meet halfway across the country. We all meet at a truck stop in Duluth, and we all do the thing, and then we leave. I don't know what it is, but you do something. You have some kind of calendar, and there are days that are deeply meaningful and special to you. And I don't want you to give those up, but I do want you to consider why they are so important and consider how you draw others who may not have that type of meaningful interaction with folks. How can I, tell me how I can help draw other people into those meaningful interactions. I'm less concerned now about what the name of the holiday is. And I'm much more concerned now that we create space for people to feel like they are a part of something meaningful and intimate and powerful, bigger than themselves, and yet attainable with their participation. Okay, my voice is absolutely shot. I've got a lot going on this week. I hope you do too, and I hope it's all real good, powerful stuff. So anyways, thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and I will talk to you later. Okay, bye guys.